Oh, yes. Welcome into Snow the Goalie, the Only Flyers podcast, the People's Podcast, Players Podcast, Prognosticators Podcast, Pedialyte Podcast, the Only Flyers podcast. And now it's time for our annual sit down with the real brain trust of your team, your town, your Philadelphia Flyers, as they embark on yet another season, one that has a lot of excitement. And now we welcome to the show not just the guys that you're used to, Anthony SanFilippo, Bundy, Chris Therien, but also Dan Hilferty, Keith Jones, Danny Briere, the who's who of the Philadelphia Flyers. Gentlemen, thanks for joining us.
Right.
For a
Great
wonderful
to be here, Russ.
Thanks
for having us.
Absolutely. I'll ask the first question, and this can be just kind of a general question for the three of you. Obviously, the season's getting ready to start. You got your last preseason game. We're recording it right before the last preseason game. Where are you guys at for level of excitement, ready to get going for the start of the season?
We're really excited. Training camp has been phenomenal. The guys came in incredible shape, which is, pretty typical of a Torts coach team and year number 3, where guys know what the expectations are. The fear of one day of a really physically demanding skate weighs on the players' minds, but they come in and they're in great shape, and then they get through that day, and then camp gets harder. It's kind of the hidden part of camp is the part that's incredible because they've worked extremely hard to get ready for the season. Some of it shows in some of our preseason games where our guys can be a little bit flat, but you do get glimpses of what they're going to do during the regular season.
Guys, actually, one of the topics we talk about this year with preseason games, there's been some injuries. Is 7 preseason games too many? From your standpoint, I know you're
funny. I asked for an extra one. I wanted an extra one.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Yeah. It's funny. We felt, or I feel that 8 games is too many for the players because to get to a point where they don't want to play and it's tough to ice a team. 6, I felt is too short for your goalies. Because you're having to get your goalies ready. You want to see some of the goalies that you have also coming up, and you're just not enough periods to see everyone. So we felt 7 was kind of a better number for all those things. So.
But Dan, I also think the whole Montreal experience for the team. I mean, here we are in a preseason game, and the arena was sold out.
Right.
It was an environment that I think is great for the team to experience as a fan and someone on the business side.
Well, there was a reason that it was a sold-out preseason game.
Because the three of us.
That's right. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, I think we got to get into that. I mean, the fact is that, the excitement in this town for Michkov being here and being able to play hockey now is like something that I haven't seen really since your era. As far as the start of a season, right? With during the Lindros times, what do you guys? What have you seen from him up front? Just for preseason, maybe Danny, you can address this, and then what should the fan excitement be? Should it be excitement, but controlled excitement?
Expectations.
Or, where is the expectation level?
Yeah. Well, first of all, we've been blown away by his competitiveness, how much he tries so hard to integrate himself within the locker room. You just don't know. You get a new player. We had heard a lot of the rumblings, but we've been really surprised at how much he wants to be a Flyer, and that we had told everybody before, and we knew that, but he's gone way above what we expected him to be doing with his teammates. And now the way he played too in preseason, I think some of his teammates are realizing that he's pretty good, and they might want to have the chance to play with him and get some nice passes for goals. So it's been fun. It's been fun to watch, but at the same time, we have to keep in mind this is preseason. He's faced a lot of players that maybe will play in the American League or players that'll be on bottom pairings in the NHL. So the real test will be when the season starts. So it's been good to see what he's done so far, but at the same time, the intensity will rise up. The competitive field that he's going to face is going to rise up. So it's going to get tougher and tougher for him.
And I heard you say that a couple of weeks ago at the beginning of camp, that people were asking you to essentially assess what you think the year will be. And you as a skilled player, a lot of the same kind of body frame as Michkov, you know what it was like early in your career, right? And there is offensive struggles with talented offensive players earlier in their career.
Well, yeah, and he's well above where I was when I came in the league. I'll tell you that much. But yeah, there's probably going to be a learning curve for him. If you compare, the game is played very differently in Russia where he's playing. You just saw how quick players close the gap on him. He doesn't have as much space as he used to have. And players like him, if you give them space, they're going to make you pay for it. So they're going to try to take his time and space away. So it's going to be an adjustment at first. But I think his brain is outstanding, the way he reacts, how quick he reacts, that he's going to be able to adapt pretty quickly.
Now, be a center for you guys? That's just one other thing.
It's a good question. We haven't really thought about that, to be honest. At this point, it's not something we've discussed, and we are looking to make a change. The way the league is going to, I feel nowadays, the wingers are the guys that create the offense more and more, where the center has to support low in the defensive zone. They need to catch up. So to unlock a player, I feel offensively, that on the wing might be definitely easier to start his career.
And the good news is it's either wing. I mean, so many guys, as you'll remember, Bundy, from Europe, they come over, they're left-hand shot play on the right wing, and that's what they do. But he's open.
He's played both
anything.
sides through training camp. He doesn't care.
Doesn't matter to him.
Within a game, it doesn't matter to him. So that's really impressive. Work ethic is extremely impressive. Right. Finishes every drill in practice. Took no shortcuts. Sometimes a player comes in that's already been declared to be great, and there's things about them, you see certain flaws that you go, okay, there's something there. But in practice, he does everything he's supposed to do and more. To get through a John Tortorella training camp, you're being asked to do a lot. And there hasn't been a time that Torts blinked an eye at his effort in practice, which is, it's remarkable. It
shown
really
no
is.
entitlement at all.
Zero.
For a kid who's been in the spotlight since he was how old?
Right.
So it's that part has been fun to watch.
Right.
So from my perspective, it's that last point that Danny just made that is key to me. With their leadership and John Tortorella's leadership and us on the business side, we're trying to build a culture that accepts nothing but excellence. And it starts from a team framework, right? So even when we thought about, wow, this is great news, we're going to sell tickets. And by the way, we've sold a lot of tickets. We're going to get more energy, more excitement from the fan base. But the way we decided to portray that in billboards and other ways was that he was part of the team. He stood behind the captain and the two assistant captains. And that wouldn't have worked if he showed up and tried to cut corners or didn't accept being one of the younger guys on the team who gets teased, who gets whatever it might be. And I think it bodes well for a Jett Luchanko as he comes up in a couple of years, a Tyson Forrester as he continues to improve his game. And I'm using them as examples. There's a number of players who are at that point in their careers that team is everything, and they need to know that we see it as team first, and stars become part of a team, and then they excel as their talents and skill set allow them.
It's almost like you read my mind, because I was going to ask you about those billboards, right? And like that what goes in, what went into the thought process there, because everybody just assumed, oh, they're going to market Michkov, and it would make sense in a lot of ways because it's what the fans are most excited about. But you guys chose, and very specifically, to put him up there with 4 other players on a lot of those advertisements. So that was well thought out. That was something that you guys really discussed.
Anthony, it's consistent with how we're trying to patiently, and from where I sit, preaching patience. I mean, this young man showing up and the other guys growing a little bit, it's going to take time, and we're comfortable with that. But as we build the foundation to this future, we want to make sure everything's done. The way they travel, the hotels they stay in, the training facility, the locker room here, the way we carry ourselves, everything is about first rate. And we think ultimately that'll pay dividends, not only in wins, but when you guys go to attract free agents or players who would be excited about being drafted by the Philadelphia Flyers.
I actually wanted to go back to the idea of how you market him and the way that you kind of temper expectations. Torts has already kind of said that it's not going to be the Matvei Michkov show. He's going to kind of monitor how available he is to the media. And on your end of things, like I'll look to you first, because marketing for this team, they've had to do a lot with not a lot available to them for a few years, if we're being fair. It's not a team that was looked at as being a perennial Stanley Cup contender. You had a few guys on the roster who were marketable in some way, but didn't have what was viewed as the same kind of ceiling that this kid does. When you're talking to the marketing team and you know that he's coming over, how hard was it? Like, was there a tempering of expectations with them? Because I have to imagine that for them, this is probably the most excited that they've been.
It's like winning the lottery,
it's an
right?
actual person to market, but like, have you guys had to kind of even rein that in a little bit to be like, all right, look, we can't pour too much gasoline on the fire of excitement that the fans are going to have?
It's a balancing act, and you know, we all engage with fans on a regular basis, and just having that conversation that, yeah, we're excited, but thanks for sticking with us, and it's going to take time. And I think fans trust that. And so with the team, the business side, working closely with hockey operations leadership, we wanted to stoke the flames of that excitement, but doing it in a way that was honest and tempered. Yeah. And the staff was all for that here. And these guys guided us. They showed us what they wanted, how they wanted to portray this thing, and it started with team first. And I think in the long term, that will pay significant dividends for the franchise.
And I actually, really quick, I wanted to flip this to you guys more on the hockey side of things. Last year you said rebuild. This season ended up going better than expected, where you're kind of in striking distance of a playoff spot. Knowing, as soon as you found out he's going to come over, there's going to be expectations that he's going to play, did it change anything from the roster construction standpoint for this season, or maybe even looking into next year? Did it change the plan at all, knowing that, all right, we don't have to wait till 2025 or 2026? Like, he's going to be here. We can't just let him flounder with players who might not get the best out of him.
Well, it changes the roster because he takes a big chunk of it that way, and he obviously brings another element on offense. So, yeah, just having his presence in the lineup changes it, but it doesn't change our outlook or, the plan that we had in place. You talked about the rebuild. We're still moving in that direction. It's going to take time. I don't think anybody expects Michkov by himself to make a Stanley Cup contender this year.
And we have, there's guardrails in place. We don't have the money to go out right now and make that type of maneuver. So everything's there in front of everyone else to look at. Yeah. In a couple of years, we'll have the money to be able to continue to build, aggressively and try to recruit the players that we want to make sure want to come here based upon the way that we treat our players, how they feel, how we operate. All those things matter right now. All that's really important.
Josie,
before you, can I just to like, and this is truly from a fan's perspective. I was the most fortunate fan around last year in that I got to walk in that locker room after every game, win, lose, draw, whatever it was. And what I found most amazing and encouraging is they thought they were going to win every single game. They did. There was something about this group, and you look in Cam York's eyes. I'm using him as an example again, and they believe in each other. And so for me, let's be patient around not creating too high expectations, but let's also encourage them to trust each other to a level where they may surprise us, not night in and night out, but on nights that become more occasional over the next couple of years.
It doesn't surprise. It doesn't surprise anymore too, because they do it regularly. So that's one of the most important things about our group of guys. Sure. And they're growing up together, which is awesome.
Yeah, I was actually going to mention, talking about the last star player I can remember that we actually had a discussion about. I remember Ron Hextall was the president or the GM, and he called us broadcasters down and said, "I don't want you talking about Gostisbehere." This is after he had like the 13-game point streak to start his career, and I thought to myself, well, how do we not talk about him? He's the biggest story in the NHL. Do you want us talking highly about Michkov if he's dominating the ice?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm trying to make the point. Like, I think he deserves that.
Of course. Yeah. We want people talking about the Flyers. We want, and Matvei's a Flyer.
Yeah. And hopefully he gives you guys a reason. Yeah. We want that. Believe me, we want that. We're just trying to be realistic. And,
understood.
There's going to be some tough nights. That's just how we see it. But I mean, yeah, if we hope that he puts on a show.
If he's doing
and
that,
we're in the entertainment business, so so absolutely.
Well, the biggest show for me in the preseason was Coots when
That was great.
he was getting roughed up in the
defend
back.
him.
You know, that speaks volumes to me about.
Well, that's your billboard.
That's the billboard. That's right. That's right.
Some things never change.
That's right. Some things do.
You know, while we're talking about Coots, guys, actually, it's a good segue to do it. He's a guy that last year, I don't want to say broke down, but he hit a wall last year. And he's had 2 back surgeries. He's had the abdominal surgery. Is there a maintenance look? But again, and I've said it, guys, in the offseason, I've said on Snow the Goalie, I don't know if you guys would have maybe been where you were without his presence. But we talked to Jonesy Danny with us last year. He did hit a wall.
Yeah.
And he admittedly said, my play dropped down. There was some ugliness about what went on. He got benched. He was a captain. Is there a maintenance prescription for a Sean Couturier to keep him more healthy as you get down to the last 20 games this year?
Yes, there's definitely a plan in place. And, you know, Sean is also a very proud person to start with.
Sure.
The time that he put in this summer, it showed at training camp, just the test that he did. He was in great shape coming in, leaner, stronger than he was last year. And then look, it's even tough last year to really evaluate him because he came in almost 2 years without playing. So last year was mostly for him to realize, hey, can I still play this game? Can I still be a difference maker? And he showed us in the first half that yes, he was still at that level. I remember last year, you know, everything he was, and we know he had the back surgery, but everything else was hurting. He had bad shoulders, bad wrist, bad elbow, bad knee, bad ankle. I mean, it was hilarious. Everything was
That's
hurting.
because of that one injury.
Yeah,
hurting everywhere.
but everything was hurting other than his back. So it was kind of comical, and you know, not really surprised that the second half didn't go as well. And he put in a lot of time this summer. So I expect him to be back to where he was at the beginning of last year.
You know, in camp last year, we talked to you guys then in Voorhees, and you shouted out Bobby Brink as being a guy who kind of like came out of nowhere, surprised you guys. With camp essentially over preseason, very close to being done, like, is there anybody who has stood out that you didn't expect to maybe still be in play at this point?
Surprised us? Not well. Luchanko. I mean, to be honest, Luchanko is really surprised at how well he's played at this level already. For a kid we just drafted, but he was 17 years old about a month ago. He's been outstanding.
What is it about Luchanko's game that
it's his overall game, and if you watch the details of his game on the ice, he's almost there supporting everybody. He does all the little things. Stick's always in the right lane. It's always in a good position, and he's made plays too. He's more of a playmaker than he is a goal scorer, and that's definitely an area we hope for him to take the next level in goal scoring. But the rest of his game is, it's just, he looks like a 35-year-old out there, the way he plays the game and can support everybody and have everybody's back. So it's been really impressive that a 17, 18-year-old is already at that level.
When you look at him and you're evaluating him, I know that there's some discussion you guys are having about, do we send him right back to junior? Do we maybe give him a little bit of a run here? You have that 9-game window where you can do that kind of stuff. Like, what is your thought on that at this point? Like, you're right up against it, Danny. I mean, you got to make a call at some point.
We're not looking for you to break news here.
Yeah, no,
But-
I figured
but
I'd
you're
ask,
right.
This might happen by the time the interview comes out.
But you're right. Those are the discussions we're having, trying to evaluate what is best for him, for his development. How much it's going to affect him, health-wise, physically. He's a strong kid, but again, 17, 18-year-old playing against men. That's something we have to take into context as well. But the most important part when we discuss is how can we make Jett Luchanko be the best player he can be in 5 years from now. For us, yes, it'd be great to have him play for us this year, but does that make him better in 5 years when, we're a Stanley Cup contender? And that's kind of the approach that we try to have with him.
You remember Bundy when Rod Brindamore broke into the league and how physically strong he was.
Yes.
That's Luchanko has that already. That's what's so, I guess, really incredible to me when I watch
got that
him.
work ethic.
He's got all that.
Yeah.
And that's really stood out at the combine against all the other kids his age. But to come out and skate through towards his training camp like he has and continue to show that he's got a great set of legs is the reason that we're still talking about him right now.
Yeah.
Danny talked about his overall game. There's a lot of similarities to Rod in that, with the exception of his speed, as obviously Roddy wasn't, a speedster like Luchanko is, but there's a lot there. The face-offs, the details on his
did a
draws,
lot of work,
his defensive work, his penalty killing. You can put him on the power play. We're really pleased with everything that he's done so far and look forward to watching him in the future.
And it's fair to say, Jonesy, that I know that a lot of people were maybe surprised that was the pick you guys made, but there were a lot of teams that were really interested in this kid. Not to say who, but there were teams that were, and you were having conversations on the draft floor, right, of people who maybe wanted to get to that spot to take Jett Luchanko.
And that's a big part of the draft is knowing – who's coming, who wants who. We talk about our guys go out and they get reports on players. We get about 100 reports on every player. So going in the draft, who you want, who you like, and you start asking questions. And our scouts kind of go around and they figure out which team are looking for certain players. And we were very well aware of how much further down we could go before losing him, and that's why we couldn't. We felt it was the time because we were running out of runway for him. Again, I trust the guys that we have, the guys that go out and watch these guys play night after night, and write reports, rather than the people that will watch them once on video sometimes, and come up with a report on that player. We have a good staff when it comes to evaluating players and draft picks. My place, our place, I should say, there is to listen to our guys and rely on them because that's what we pay them for.
One thing I really wanted to ask you guys about, which I think is kind of going to dictate a lot of how your season goes, is goaltending.
Yeah.
You have built up in your time here a stable of goaltending prospects. Even if you count Fedotov as a prospect, I know he's older, but he's not played in the NHL, so there's still an element that's unknown about him. How do you weigh the determination of, well, this guy's still learning the NHL or still trying to find out if they're a number one caliber goalie versus it's time to think about something else? That's got to be a challenge because it's a weird position. It's a volatile position.
It is.
It's not as easy to determine when you're looking at it up front, right?
Yeah, and we're not goalies, so unless you're a goalie, sometimes it's tough to get the small little details.
Hilsa goalie.
He goaltended a few times.
He might have, eh, Joe?
No, sorry, Danny.
But it is an unknown for us. We feel Urson, and especially with the camp that he's had, Sam Urson is ready to take the reins. After that, it's a little unknown for us. The good thing is there's so many prospects coming up. So, the Fedotov, Kolosov will get the chance this year for us to see what they can do. But coming up, there's other good young goalies coming, Bjarnason, Zavragin. So it's exciting. I think, all you hope is for one to come and to hit, and you can go a long ways. But at least we do have some prospects and some hope there in net coming up.
Well, the Kolosov thing was interesting. I think if we'd been doing this a couple weeks ago, the tone and tenor might have been a little bit different. But there were fans, obviously, who were trying to draw a parallel between what happened at the end of last year with Cutter Gauthier and with Alexei Kolosov coming over at the end of last year, but then not reporting to camp. That has since changed. He's been around the team. Do you guys feel like you have a better idea of where he and his camp might be at this point versus a month or so ago? Like he did end up reporting here.
Yes, absolutely. I think we've realized there's a lot of stuff that he's had to deal with that we kind of are or were unaware of back in his country, and the pressure that he was under to play for his hometown team in the KHL. So that was really, really tough on him. So, we're trying to work with him to make him feel good and put him in the best position. And, it's something that we're going to evaluate as a move forward, because there's a lot of pressure on him from different fronts.
Okay.
Guys, defensively, and I know really appreciate your time. Just looking at defensively, you have a youngster in Bonk, and the player he traded last year, Jamie Drysdale, who had some injury situations. Could you just fill us in quickly just on those kind of two unknown quantities as the NHL season starts? What are the plans for Bonk and expectations for Drysdale?
Well, for Bunk, first of all, what we feel is he probably needs a little bit more seasoning, with his game. We're extremely happy with him. He's trending in the right direction. What's exciting for him is this year, most likely he's going to play in London again. They're going to have a very good team in the OHL, a chance to go back to the Memorial Cup. And one of the most important part is probably playing for Team Canada, the World Juniors. Sure. He was there last year, didn't end up the way they wanted. He's going to get to go back, and we expect him to be one of the captains on the team. So that experience and leadership that he's going to have the chance to gather during that tournament, I think is exceptional. To play for your country, we talked about, Dan mentioned playing in Montreal. Well, when you play for Team Canada, the World Juniors, it's one of the biggest tournament in the world. Everybody watches in Canada. It's a lot of pressure. So it's going to be great for him to be one of the leaders of that team. So that's kind of the outlook for him this season. And on Drysdale, he's had a good camp, showed up finally healthy compared to last season. So that's exciting. You watch him skate, he just floats on the ice right now. So hopefully that confidence of feeling healthy can translate into taking another step this year. As far as, I don't know what's it's going to translate into points, but he's going to lead our number one PP unit, and it can only go up from where it was the last few years. So him, the addition of Michkov, those are two guys that can really help the power play. I don't expect our power play to go from 32nd to top 5 in the league, but small steps. If they can take a step forward. Drysdale will have to play a big role in that.
Dan, if I can ask you a question that has nothing to do with the hockey team, but I think is still relevant for a lot of the people who watch our show. We had Mayor Parker put out a thing which she has this agreement for the Sixers to build their arena downtown. I know we've discussed this in the past before. I just wanted to kind of, first of all, get your reaction to that, and then I want to follow up with asking you about some other plans and ideas that you guys have going on down here in the sports complex area.
So, Anthony, before I get into that, I've been sitting here thinking about the conversation about that Russ, you asked about with Gauthier and then also with Kolosov and Kolosov. And one of the things that is really important to me and to us is that we're dealing with human beings, right? I mean, and from everybody that on the business side to the hockey side to the players to the coaches, and we want to be an organization, and that's what I was so impressed with what Danny said. We want to be an organization that goes to where people are. I mean, we've talked about this a lot. Understands the needs, maybe the concerns or health issues that folks have, and not pry where we don't belong, but make sure that we create an environment that you're not only appreciated because you can put a puck in a net or you can defend or you can play goalie. You're appreciated as a human being. And for me, that will be the hallmark of, sure, we want to grow into a contender year in and year out, but we want to bring the person along with us. And so I see it in Torts, the way he coaches, that and he likes to say this. He feels that it's not just about coaching X's and O's. It's about looking someone in the eye with honesty and helping build a better person. And we want that to be part of our hallmark. So I was just I've been impressed with the way these guys approach. Sure, players are either good enough, not good enough, better, a little less better, but the truth of the matter is They're human beings at the end of the day, and that's sorry to.
No, that's quite all right.
Point.
Now, do I have to answer that other question?
I would prefer it.
So look, let me say this. We've been very, very clear about our hope that the Sixers would reconsider, will reconsider at some point, that we could develop a 50-50 partnership for right here in the Wells Fargo Center, and at the appropriate time in the future, build a new arena right here as part of this significant development we're about to undertake, and that will always be our position. What we have said consistently, and I'll say here and now, we want what is best for Philadelphia. And Mayor Parker has determined that she thinks for the needs of Market East and the fact that regardless of the Sixers stay or go, we'll be just fine down here, which we will be. We'll be strong competitors. But the truth of the matter is, we're not talking about two major franchises leaving the city of Philadelphia. Yeah. We're talking about all the franchises, including the 76ers, making a commitment to the Philadelphia region. Hey, this is good. This is a good debate. This is nothing to get upset about. Sure, we're competitive. We want to bring everybody together. So, look, I can't respond to what the Sixers are thinking. We respect the Sixers. I'm a Sixers fan. And we just hope that circumstance gets us to a point where we end up in a room together and decide that the future of both franchises is best served by us being together. But we don't control that outcome. And we're going to focus on continuing to build this franchise and just make sure that the public, the Sixers, and the political leadership of Mayor Parker, City Council, and at the state level understand that we want what's great for Philadelphia. We have an opinion on that, and our door will always be open to try to make that happen.
That's great. And to follow up on what I was saying, we know that you and the Phillies have announced your partnership for the development down here. I just wanted to follow up and see if there was anything new on that front. Are we getting close to hearing anything about what might be coming down the line here for the development?
Well, the partnership has been formed, and we're excited about it. We're obviously, there's a great deal of planning that goes into this, and then the next step will be a conversation with PIDC. We're in continual dialogue with the communities. The surrounding communities are going to have something to say about this. I would say that there will be an announcement very soon about the next version of Xfinity Live that we're really excited about that. And then over the course, Anthony, of the next several months, we will begin to lay out, as we engage government for the approvals we'll need, laying out step by step the plan for this multi-use development where people can come and watch great sports, be entertained in other ways, and frankly live here. And so we're looking at building what I like to say that the next great Philadelphia neighborhood. And we're gung-ho. We're in dialogue with the Eagles. Certainly we want the Eagles' support in this. The NFL's it's a different animal, really, when you think of it, just as big as it is. But the Eagles have been open to a discussion. And wouldn't that be a grand slam if we, no pun intended, if we were able to bring the Eagles in, not only supporting, but as a participant, and ultimately the Sixers too? We'd be an unbeatable force.
That's right.
And then who knows, Philadelphia Union, or who knows what the future holds. So it's in progress. We're doing it the right way, as these guys are doing in developing this franchise, and there will be announcements that will begin to happen as we get traction with and get in concert with the folks at City Hall.
Great. Guys, have a blessed year. Have a great hockey season, and we'll be grabbing you when you come down.
Sure.
Come on.